Okay, we're back on. Sorry, folks, internet issue. So we were talking about doctors, and if Jesus did not believe in doctors, he would have rebuked Luke for being a doctor and being his follower. So you do have to understand that. Now, in the Old Testament, there was a king that kept seeing doctors all the time and never sought God. Now, that's a problem too if we make doctors our God. So there's a balance there. And also keep this in mind too. You remember the time when Paul was having, was it Paul or Timothy? I think maybe Timothy was having some stomach issue, and was it Paul that said, drink a little wine, for your stomach. So according to the Bible, it's okay, to have some wine, or it's okay to have some other natural resources that will help your physical body as well. So if it's 100% reliant on the Lord, then God would have not said, drink a little wine. He would have also said, in terms of the physical healing, because you and I will do things to hurt our physical body, or we do things to strengthen our physical body. If we eat a lot of fried food, a lot of sugar, a lot of these things, of course, you are going to have more physical problem. If you smoke a lot, you're going to have, if you drink a lot, it's going to have a lot of physical problem to your body, because the body is not made to handle that. So there are physical issues. So we can take better care of our body by eating better, and so on. And going to doctors, it's not a problem as long as we don't make doctors our God. So, and is it possible that God will use doctor to heal us at times? Sure. We see it in the Bible. Now, also, it depends on your circumstances too. In countries where doctors are not as accessible, people don't have the money for it, they rely more on the Lord, and they see even more healing that will take place as well. So this is the complete order that I see in the Bible, in terms of physical healing. Just don't make medicine our God. Okay. All right. Any other question?
Yes, I got a question, Pastor.
Yes, Marco.
Okay. We talked about earlier that God has given us the authority to heal, right? So that's an authority that we have.
Yes.
Then in the Bible, it talks about the disciples not being able to heal that young son and then he says he rebuked him because he said his faith, correct? We talked about the military. When a military man has authority, but sometimes you don't see the man, but you see the bars that are on his shoulder, which gives him the authority. So in our case, does the enemy see the authority that's behind us in the enemy? And then if what we're talking about, why do we, in States, I hear other countries, there's a lot of healing because that's the only option. But here, it's like a ritual. We go and we lay hands on people, and it's just like a ritual, because sometimes I don't believe that I'm going to see it manifest. And that's the kind of confusion that I have in between. If God is the authority, and then the faith thing comes in. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
So you're talking about the faith.
Yes.
God has given us authority, but sometimes we don't live in that authority. We don't believe that we have the power. We don't believe that we have the authority. So let me see if I have verses here, or I can point it to you if I have it in the PowerPoint, so I don't have to. Okay, for example, Ephesians 1. Paul prayed for the Christian in Ephesus. He prayed that the eyes of their heart may be enlightened, in order that they might know, that you and I might know three things: the hope to which he has called us to, the riches of his glorious inheritance, and his incomparably great power for us who believe. So Paul prayed that we would know that we have the power. Do you know what that means? That means Christians don't know that they have the power, or we don't believe that we have the power. Okay, so that's the faith. Let me see if there's another passage. Is it on? Okay, it's Matthew 17. Matthew 17, not 13. There's a man had a son who had seizure, but the disciples could not heal him. And Jesus said, "Bring the boy here to me." Jesus rebuked the demon. He came out of the boy and he was healed. But then the disciple came to Jesus in private. Interesting, it said in private. And he asked, "Why couldn't we drive it out?" Okay. People often would say this: if the person doesn't get healed, some people say it's not God's timing, it's not God's will, maybe they sin, or maybe the sick person lacked faith. So those are four major excuses that people gave, major reasons that they give, four major ones. Now, look at Jesus' response in Matthew 17. He replied to them, to the disciples, "Because you have so little faith. Truly, I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." So the sick person might lack faith, but you and I, when we pray for people, we might lack faith. If you and I lack faith, that means we don't believe we have the power. So that's what you just said, Marco. Sometimes you don't believe it. If you don't believe it, if you have no faith at all, then guess what? You pray for people, you're going to see very little healing. So there's two types of faith level. The sick person might have faith. You and I, as disciples who pray for people, we also have a faith level. Let me see if there's another passage here that shows you. Okay. Okay, this is talking about praying multiple times. The faith level of the sick. Okay. This is the story of the woman in Mark 5. And she had blood issue. It was her faith. So you have different faith level. Sometimes it's the sick person's faith level, and sometimes it's the person praying, the disciple faith level. If both faith levels are very high, that's more likely of healing. If one is high, the other one's not so high, you still get some, either one. But if both of them are low, you get almost zero healing that will take place. So there's different faith level, okay? But there was another time when a person didn't get healed. And Jesus said this has nothing to do with that, your faith or authority, but this one only comes out by prayer and fasting. So there's also a time when we need to pray and we need to fast and really just seek the Lord. So if we are going to answer a different question, I want to challenge you, look at overall the context and what does the Bible say? Not just one passage, okay? So if you look at this passage, you will say, wow, it's going to be dependent on your faith, the sick person's faith. If they don't have faith and they don't have great faith, they won't be healed. No, you can't just look at one passage. You got to look at all the passage. Sometimes it's the person who prayed. If you don't have faith, the person might not get healed. We see that in Matthew 17 that we just read. So,
Pastor, I have a
combination of all that. Yes, Ms. Cho.
So I just want to ask another question about a person praying for the dead. In the Bible, disciples sometimes pray for the dead person and they come alive. Is it because, well, the dead person faith is gone because the person is dead, but the the disciple must have a very high faith in order to resurrect the dead. Is it correct?
That's a good question. So actually, when the person died, you were sharing from a perspective that um, they don't have any faith level because they're already dead. Sometimes it even depended. Let's say the person who died is a little boy, a little girl, or if they're sick. Sometimes the faith of the parents even make a difference, right? Oh no, did I get disconnected again? Nope, I'm still on, right? Yep, still on. But something happened. Yeah, something happened. Really strange things happening today, folks. Okay,
Satan is among us.
yes. It's, let me see. I want to address what John just said in a few minutes. But sometimes when the person dies, it depends on the faith. If they're a little child, the faith of the parents. But in certain cases, even when they died, it's kind of good because, you know, it all depended on the disciple who prayed as well. Because sometimes people can have negative faith too, so that can draw everything down. You remember when Jesus prayed, or when Paul prayed for a dead person, he asked everybody to leave the room. And so it's just him and the person. Because, you know, sometimes you get all of these negative people talking about different things and it just mess up everything. So, by the way, from God's perspective, you know, raising a dead person is the same as healing a sick person. But from our perspective, it requires greater faith to raise someone from the dead than just to, you know, pray for somebody who has a headache.
Mm.
Okay. Great question. Any other question? Oh, John said maybe, yeah, I didn't hear you correctly. You said maybe disruption from Satan or something like that. Is that what you said, John?
I just said Satan's among us. He's angry.
Oh,
I
Satan,
guess
he's angry.
he don't like this meeting. Doesn't like this training.
It's a good point. A lot of people believe that.
I do.
I try not to give too much credit to Satan, actually. But that's just me. You know, I don't think too much about him. I try not to focus too much on Satan. There are some people that believe, you know, he's everywhere. And you know, he does have the authority in this world. When Adam and Eve fell, um, the authority was given to him over this world. The God of this world, you know, has blinded the minds of unbelievers. So the Bible said that. So he is the God of this world. So he does have certain authority. But from my perspective, I try not to focus so much on him, and I focus more on the Lord. So when things go wrong, when things go bad in my life or different situation, I try not to focus on the bad things, but I focus on what is it that God is doing. You know, like if I have technology issue, what is God doing? And I know he's allowing me to grow more in patience, and he wants me, so I don't get bothered by technology issues much anymore. I don't get bothered by, you know, different things. And if there are different things, and then I don't focus on the negative, rather I focus, God, what are you doing? Why? Because like Romans 8:28, and God causes all things to work together for good to those who love him, to those who are called according to his purpose. So I said, Lord, you know, how do I love you in this situation? So this way I can focus on me being more like Jesus and growing in the Lord. Okay. So that helps me a lot. So just, I know not everybody's like that, but you know, I try to focus more on the Lord rather than on the enemy. Will the slides be available on RAK website later? I guess we can put that up, you know, on the slide. And I'm teaching you only a portion of the physical healing portion of it. Usually it takes a little bit more, but it's so easy, guys. It's really so easy.
Pastor Simeon,
Yes,
so regarding about faith, you know, the Bible said that everyone is given a certain measure of faith, but then also, can you also grow in faith and have more faith as you learn to walk with the Lord?
of course. Okay, so Miss Cho, so if you, it's a good point. It's a great question, and let me address that. By the way, I love all your questions, you know, everyone. But I do want to challenge you. You know, it's easy, and please understand, I'm not picking on Miss Cho. I think it's for all of us because, you know, you guys asked me some great questions, but a lot of your questions, sometimes it's based on one verse. So very few people, even pastors that I work with, very few people really try to find the answer about a topic based on all that the Bible talk about that topic. You know, like this question, we all given a certain measure of faith. So if you read that in context, what is it about? What about other passages that, you know, there was a time and Jesus asked this man, if you believe, he said, I do believe, help me overcome my unbelief. So he said, I do believe, but help me overcome my unbelief. Okay. And then there's also the gift of faith as well in 1 Corinthians 12. So this man said, I believe some, but I have doubt. So help me overcome the doubt. Help me grow in it. So you see there, you can grow. And then there's also the spiritual gift of faith in 1 Corinthians 12, Acts 6, you know, Stephen was a man full of faith, full of the Spirit. The more we are filled with the Spirit, the more faith we will have. Faith can grow. You know, you look in people's lives, Moses' life and so on, faith grew. So you and I can grow in faith. The more hurt and pain, the more stones we have, the less faith we have. Also, the more we experience the Lord, the more faith we have as well. So when you look at it from an overall Bible perspective, you see people growing in their faith. You see in the Bible that, you know, a person doesn't have much faith. Lord, help me. And you know, Jesus talked about those who have little faith will be faithful in the little, those who have great faith. So the faith can grow. And we see that in the Bible. It's an excellent question. I just challenge all of us to think in terms of not just one passage, but look at what the Bible say about that. Okay. All right. Let me see what time. I want us to get to practice. Oh my goodness, we're running a little bit late. I think the Wi-Fi causes a problem. So I'm going to stop the sharing and the recording, and we are going to just practice for only a couple of minutes. Okay. So let me get